All
Okay,
right,
can you hear me
so
now?
we're here. Yep. So
We hear
let's
you now.
Yep, we can hear you. So let's go with the pledge when you get the flag. There you go. Thank you. All right. Stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
I believe it's
to
to the flag of the United States of
United
America,
States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
my
under
life.
God,
indivisible,
with
liberty,
liberty and justice for all.
for all. Okay.
People walking by my office, looking in, going, "What the hell is he doing?"
That's why I closed the door.
Well, we have this window in the wall.
Yeah, my last job, he used to like that. Everybody could see what you're doing. It was like, yeah. Can I have a curtain?
Sure. I'm gonna have to invest in it.
So first item that we have is yeah, hold on one second. Speaking of
Minutes of the meeting.
yeah, and I actually had thought that we did, but I think it was just the back and forth. I thought it was. Ended up looking at it. It looked like it was just the amendments that emails back and forth with Sheila. So I don't believe that we did. So I know it's a pretty tight. To flip them on a weekly is a little bit tight of a time frame. Hold on one second. I gotta, speaking of audio things, I've got to switch my headset off. Now,
Try again.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Angela, anonymously, he's having trouble getting in. Speaking of WebEx. Okay, you're on speaker, and then I've moved myself to speaker on my thing. So everyone might be a little fuzzy, but Angelus is on with me through my cell phone on speaker, if everyone caught that.
Thank you.
So the minutes, yeah, I'd like to anonymously make a motion that we postpone the minutes to a date certain, and hopefully that'll be our next meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And no opposition or abstentions, so motion carries unanimously. So our next item on the agenda is going to be the project updates. So first we've got the security vestibules and roof, and then we'll take up the main item here, the AC. So if we have any security vestibule or roofing
So
updates.
I can give you on the roof. Silver Petroselli is working on the roof drawings. We had we'll call it the voided, Italian from my point of view, a half expected blip with the state, in which they rejected our applications that were made at the beginning of November, which would have brought us to review meetings at the beginning of January to get their approval to bid the roof project. They voided the North Stratfield roof and the Holland Hill roof, which is not under the purview of this building committee. And instead of allowing us to fix really a couple innocuous, really silly little, what they were calling defects in submission, which were actually new things that they were asking for. They made us wait. That's probably correct. And reapply, which means we'll be probably getting the approval, the application acceptance in January, making our appointments to have the drawings reviewed in February. So, we lost a whole month on that, which is unfortunate, especially for this project. I think there's enough people out there that'll bid it. That's probably correct. It's just doesn't help. Doesn't help. So that's my update on roof.
Okay,
So-
I got them. I have the roof going in front of the Board of Ed on January 25th at the regular meeting for approval to go to PCR.
Yeah, that's probably that's probably correct. We'll probably, nothing. In actuality, there's nothing that precludes us. Actually, you could probably move that up because there's nothing that precludes us from having them make that motion. Doesn't say it has to be after the acceptance of Oscar. Just says that they have to say okay.
So
Okay.
let me. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, we need
This building.
Board of Ed approval.
Right, let me
first
get
Board of Ed meeting-
Let me. I'll talk with SPA. We'll get a timeline for having a packet together, and we'll see if we can get it on the January 10th BOE board meeting, and before that, this building committee's so whatever that first Friday of the new year,
like I said.
the 5th, you guys can make the motion, and then we'll get on the board agenda. I'm thinking, well, board agenda should be, they meet on Tuesdays, Mark, so it would be the 9th or the 25th.
Yeah.
We'll check their.
So, can I jump in quickly for a
Well-
quick comment, if you don't mind, at some point, Mark?
Yep.
Let me know.
Well, I was gonna say that, do we want to go all together with the security vestibules and the roof to the Board of Ed, or do we want to do a consecutive meeting?
Well, can we plot the timeline for the vestibules, basically, because we saw the email from Jesse, but can we get a more firm understanding let's plot that timeline.
Well, I had the final security vestibule as Friday the 5th. But from the sounds of it yesterday, that's not gonna be, it's gonna be more towards the 12th to the 15th. Is that correct, Jesse?
I think, it might be a week later to have all 3 finished. Our goal is to have a couple of them finished before that, but we're just pushing ahead as quickly as we can on it.
So that's gonna, just so everybody is on the same page, guys, those 2 packages are gonna complicate the bids. Because we don't want to, the HVAC project is, what do you call it, in terms of lead time, materials, and doing any potential work this summer. And the more, obviously with the vestibule have its own timeline, the roof has its own timeline, and those are actually kind of connected, if you will. Like the roofing, we're gonna have one roofing package to address the patch and repair work at Woods as well as Osborne, coupled with new roof replacement at what do you call it, North Stratfield. And the later those get, the later the GMP is going to get delayed. So we got to find a way to uncouple those and be able to move forward with the HVAC project somehow. It's just getting very complicated because each one of them has its own timeline. And when we're writing packages, but the vestibule is complicating those. So we really need to understand how this thing is we need firm dates.
Said that the
absolute firm date so I can at least plan a little bit better. I'm hearing Board of Ed approval on the roof on the 10th. That's awesome. Question is, when do you anticipate PCR and release for bid, Sal, as best as you can? When you say February, is it early February, late February? What do you think the date would be as best as you can for the roof?
I'm talking and my mic was off. Sorry about that. I said that the answer to that is a firm. I don't know what the heck Oscar is or whatever they're called now is going to do. I mean, one of the reasons that they delayed, that they refused the application, was they said I didn't sign my memo about the funding allocation. As stupid as that sounds, that was one of the two reasons. And they said that the certified minutes that the town clerk gave us weren't complete, which they were. So I don't know what they'll do, but let's say that it goes normal. We'll get the approval of our application towards the end of January. That's when we can call in to ask for a PCR. We can't do it in good about it before we have their letter. We'll get a PCR in the beginning of February. If I call up my calendar, let's guess. You know, at that point, once it's out of grants, it's in the reviewer's hands. It's, you know, Kermit Thompson and those folks. So hopefully they've always been good about getting us quickly.
So
we're looking to get it by, you know, February. If you wanted to put it on February 12th,
okay.
say that you'll have our approval by that point.
Okay. Well,
Approval to bid for February as a target.
yeah. No, I know that. And then we got to advertise for bid, which is a week later or that same week. And then we got to give the bidders
Well, it could be the next day.
For the HVAC.
They have, you know,
But I
purchasing
understand.
will have to be rather ready to pull the trigger on that.
Exactly, but I got to give them 2 to 3 weeks to bid it. And it means that we're going to get bids by the end of February, potentially, or first week of March. Okay.
I agree with you. You got 1, 2. Yeah, you're
For the HVAC.
probably opening March 4th.
So my suggestion on this, guys, so we don't delay the HVAC project, because the HVAC project is the most ready, is probably I'm going to present the GMP to this group of everything with the exception of the roof, because the roof is going to take its own timeline. It might be, I might be able to grab it by then, but if I don't, I want to get the GMP in front of you guys for the HVAC project so we can actually move forward on it. Okay, it's going to be missing the roofing work for both Osborne and Woods because I'm waiting for that roof package to come in a little bit later. Okay, so I just want to give you a heads up that could potentially happen, because otherwise, if I wait until the roof bids are due and roll those into the GMP, which might be able to do it, I just don't know how it's going to play out. I just will give you a packet that way. For now, let's plan that way.
Well, can't we just have an interim GMP?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm talking about. I can do an early GMP of the HVAC design, okay, with the exception of the roof package for the patching of those for Woods and Osborne, because I want to wait for North Stratfield bids to come in, which those are going to be inside that package. So yes, I can give you an earlier GMP. I just will give you a heads up. That's all. So that's at least gives me the roof potential timeline. Can we get the vestibule timeline somewhat under control?
Well, the vestibules, Jesse.
Okay.
We had a meeting the other day, Mark, Jesse, and I, and I'm sorry, Corey was the other name, I believe.
Yeah.
My went over some things. Got a return package. I had a couple more comments. I fixed that. I need to go and sit with the principals of each of the schools. Out of, compared to the millions of dollars of air conditioning, which is, we still got to talk to them about. This one's much more visual because it impacts where they sit every day, which is the main office.
Yep.
So we got to get, I don't think there'll be many comments about the security vestibule portion in and of itself. It's going to be more of the FF&E portion or the millwork portion inside the office is where I'm expecting the most questions about what the heck we're doing with the security vestibule.
Okay.
That's truthfully my first blush. So I literally got what I believe are drawings that I can sit down with the principals with now. Just actually, half an hour ago or last night. So I'll make some arrangements to talk to them next week. Sit down with them, get comments to Jesse's team, and we'll roll from there. So from that, if I get, hang on, I have to look at the calendar. So we are, why am I losing my focus here? We're at the 15th. So by the end of next week, I'll say by my target would be to have comments to Jesse Thursday. I'm off next Friday, but I'll be back the 27th and the 28th. So I'll get the FPS comments of the vestibule to BL by the 21st.
Okay, so Jesse, based on your email this morning, you said by the end of next week, you're going to issue as a preliminary set to us for estimating. By the end of next week, that takes us right into the Christmas week, which we're probably not going to be able to touch. In the meantime, obviously, we'd like to make sure if we're going to do an estimate on this vestibule, I think Sal's comments needs to be addressed before we estimate something that he might change that. So we'll look at it potentially the first week of January. That's set. Okay. Are you going to continue working or are you going to stop until we get the budget estimate on the vestibule?
No, we're going to keep working.
Okay. So if you keep working, assuming that preliminary set on the 22nd, you said, when do you think the PCR set will land?
I'm not sure. I mean, I threw out middle of January before. I think that works with the schedule that's been presented here. We're just going to keep progressing it as fast as we can. Yeah, I don't know if it even takes that long, but that's a good estimate right now. But I don't think that slows anything down on the schedule here.
Well, if you could, it would be great because, again, this is another one that I need a full package to send out because if I'm going to go out to bid on the HVAC on the 15th of January, which is our current target, it would be nice to have the vestibule design as PCR behind us by then, if possible. So I can go out to bid, I can give that to the bidders, and we can buy the vestibule at the same time. A week later is still okay. Much later, it's going to put it in the same issue as the North Stratfield roof issue, meaning it's the GMP is going to get presented potentially without the vestibule.
I guess my question is, doesn't it all depend? And I'm not sure about this. Doesn't it all depend on the PCR meeting versus when we're finishing our design? Does it matter if it's the 10th versus the 15th? And I'm just asking.
Well, we can schedule correct me if I'm wrong, Mark. We can schedule the PCR now for it. And as long as we don't schedule it too early and we have to push it, but really hinges on when you think you'll be ready. If we're projecting a date, we could set the PCR for January 11th. You think you'll be ready for PCR by January 11th?
Let me ask the architects working on this and
Yeah,
tell them if we need a date absolutely positively 100% done, give me a date.
exactly.
we-
That's what you need. You need the date. There's few forms and stuff that I'm sure you've been through PCRs. There's a bunch of paperwork that we have to do for the PCR, but if we can target a PCR for the 11th, plus or minus, and if we give it a week for PCR approval, then I can issue the vestibule drawings via a supplement to the bidders that are pricing the HVAC package. So if we can do that, that'll be ideal. Later, it's going to push the HVAC package to a later date. Maybe, or could push the general trades package, I should say, later date, which means I can package it with the roof as a follow-up GMP, like Sal was suggesting.
I don't know that we'll have the state's approval for that, because I have not applied for I have not made the application on the vestibules yet. So I gotta look into that one.
So is it fair, again, so not to complicate, is it fair to say that we could submit a GMP number 2? GMP number 1 is going to be the HVAC design package, if you will, with all the HVAC, electrical, and abatement, and ceilings, and lights. And GMP number 2 could be the North Stratfield roof, the roofing package for all 3 schools, and the vestibule general trades package as a follow-up GMP. It looks like that's the way we're going to probably go. So that way, they have their own timeline. I don't want to impact the HVAC because I need to start working this summer. And those 2 other variables are going to drag that one down. I don't want to do that unless, feel free to comment, guys. I just am trying to make sure we don't get ourselves tripped up.
The vestibule itself is an item that can be targeted to be done in 2025.
Agreed.
So why we're getting tied up that,
Yeah, but
I know you're worried about your GMP, but this is
not
like
the problem is
the smallest piece of it.
Agreed, but I want to buy the problem is I cannot go out to a vestibule bid. Just give me a vestibule. I'm buying general trades package, and because there is not just
well, what we had discussed, and I don't know if it was separate from a meeting that I was in. The unique item, we can use state contracts for a couple of the items that are required for the vestibule, i.e. the storefront and flooring. We have a general trades person that we can get ceilings out of. We have an electrician that we can get electrical items. I mean, it is truly small amount of work. I mean, the biggest thing that I think that is different is the foundations at Fairfield Woods, and you have somebody for that.
And so let's expand on that one. And I talked to Mark last night about this. I'm totally on board with going with state contracts on the glass and the window and the storefront. But are you okay with me negotiating as change orders on the HVAC trades for those other miscellaneous scope of work? Like the concrete, the ceilings, the drywall, the electrical. Are you okay with that? If that's the direction we're going to go, then I'm on board.
Well, that's and I'll turn back to Rodney and Dave if they're comfortable with that. You always can get a subcontractor that's somewhat gluttonous on change orders. But this is I'm not even sure that seeing what you have with we'll call it 50% design drawings at for vestibules, whether you can indirectly bid it out in the HVAC package because you know quantities. You follow what I'm saying? You know, if you have a 100 square foot vestibule, you can put a alternate bid in your trades contract for 100 square feet worth of ceiling. You can put in an electrical package, 2 lights as an alternate bid, so that at such
So-
time that we're going back to those items, they already told us a number.
But you're commingling now the contract because you guys need a separate number or be tracking each one of them as a separate contract, separate invoice. Now I have
Right.
commingled scope within the HVAC
N-
for vestibule work.
Right,
It-
but
it's-
do it as on an extra line, so you know, and just hear me out. ACT ceiling, 100 square feet, however you describe it, you get a number. And they told you, you know what, that's $5,000. So at such time that you're going to get the change order separately under the auspices of the vestibule project, they can't come back to you and say, you know, that's $10,000. You said, you already told us what it is. It's $5,000.
Huh?
I think we need to have, let's not tie up everybody.
Well, we don't need to tie up this. We can have a separate conversation.
Let's you and I get off with Mark on maybe Jesse on a separate timeline and meeting. Let's discuss this because like I said, we're making a little bit of a mess here to try to tangle up things. So let's just have a separate table. Sorry.
I was about to say, no, it's a good conversation. We've got a tight, I mean, as with everything, we've got some tight timelines and in particular on the HVAC, we can't jeopardize that timeline. I think that everyone now has sort of a good snapshot from that discussion, and I appreciate that. You know, tying up, you know, anyone, you know, it's helpful. So why don't we, you know, why don't you know, Sal and Amar have a discussion, and then if you need to involve, you know, purchasing from their perspective of what they're comfortable with on that. I think you've got a couple of different options. It sounds like there's sort of a, you know, in the developing, there's sort of there's a A, B, and C option that we might have based upon some of where this timeline is, and obviously we're a little bit at the mercy on some of this with the state, who's already, you know, sort of just doing, you know, what they do. And I think on that end, if there's any, I don't know what, you know, sort of outreach, you know, I always, you know, we all like to point to the delegation, and not the be all end all, but if there's any outreach or anything that we need on that end, Sal, and just, or Angels can reach out, you know, to me on that, and we can have that discussion as well. And just as a heads up, Angela's dropped off too, so all sorts of connection fun today. But it's just me on my line. Do we have anything else on the security vestibules and roof component for now? That was pretty helpful. All right, let's move to the AC projects. So I'll just kick off. I think, you know, just about everybody on this call, or almost, was on the Board of Selectmen and Finance meetings that we had the other night, and I thank everybody who had to hang in there, you know, even when the discussion sort of wasn't so much, I think you know, it was partially our item, part of it was global, part of it was just like, you know, even, you know, just really, really global on town stuff. I had contemplated seeing about trying to, you know, cut some of you guys loose, and then I sort of erred on the side of all I need to see is, you know, one question at the end before they go to vote on it, and then, you know, I've got a group of people that aren't there, and I just said to myself, you know, if everyone's, fortunately it was virtual, hopefully that helped some, although some I think were dialing in from offices, but hopefully that helped a little bit. But I felt it was helpful, and on the good side, it did pass the Board of Finance in the end. I think that it was a not specific necessarily. Angelos is dialing me, so I'm including. So Angelos is now connected again on speaker on my end. So I think that conversation, last night was ultimately, for the better. I always look personally for the best end result and not just what I'm working on, but how it affects everything else. So I think it was for the better, and I'm also glad that obviously that our item moved forward. So we are going to the RTM on Monday evening. That is in person. I think they may do hybrid, but I know I'm planning on being there. I'm hoping everybody will as of now, plan on being in the room, and I'll touch base again and recirculate back up and things like that downward as necessary. So other than that, there's not a ton to report on my end. I know that that we're working through, I'm just trying to think operationally on items. That was more the approvals. Working through the vendor item from last week. I know they're working on the contract item as well, still, and trying to kind of, in background, keep those things, moving from my vantage point, and try to get, these things wrapped. So we're out and being actionable always. But otherwise, I'm good. So I don't know what everybody else, if they have anything that we haven't already heard on these projects, but now's your time. Like there's nothing new, which is okay. We meet weekly, so all right. So let's keep focusing on our lanes and look towards Monday to hopefully get the approval there to really get cranking on this. So next item on the agenda is item number 4, discussion or presentation RTM. I highlighted some of it under 3A, but I think that one of the only thing that I'm gonna try and do is there was a BOS. It went fine without something a little bit more formal. BOF, I sort of intentionally kept it that way. There was a comment about that. I'm not sure that I'm looking to do a PowerPoint per se, but I want to maybe just see if we can frame out. I'm going to look at how my remarks are framed out and if we want any slides or anything like that. So, again, it's Friday morning now. That's Monday night. That's not a great amount of time, but there may be some adjustments into how we handle that. And I'm open to any feedback. I always say if anyone's got anything on that, just email me directly. Just to not trip on FOIA. So, yep, go ahead, Amar.
David, I think may be best, just so at least they feel like we watch the video and we would. I think maybe best to give a presentation. Jesse can talk about the design, and then maybe there's a little bit of discussion about how we put the numbers together, at least, so that way they feel like, because we kind of went backwards on the BOS, the Board of Finance meeting. I'm sorry. So I think might be best to do that. Even doesn't have to be slides. We can just, Jesse did a pretty good job describing the design, if you will, and we can provide some participation as it relates to the cost and how we developed it and where we were and where we are now. And we can talk about the timeline of where we're going to go out to bid. So kind of give them a little bit more of a presentation before kind of jump right into it. I don't know. That's just a suggestion. If you just introduce us, and let's try to help you give them more meat of the meeting, if you will, so they feel like they're getting something. I guess my suggestion.
that would be great. I mean, that is a little bit more along the lines of how we did it at the BOE for that update.
Right.
There were more speakers. I think in the end, everybody spoke at
Yes.
BOS. It was fine, but it was a little bit, you know, when there's two people and one of them's really got a lot of information and the other one's coming from previously, you know, aboard, it makes it easier. And I think that when you get to the BOF, it sort of exposed a little of that weakness and that, and ultimately you guys did that. You just did it when they asked the questions.
Exactly.
So maybe what we do is I can kick it off and then I can kind of push it one by one down the line and then you guys can
Yes.
and we can do something, you know, along those lines.
I think so. I
and-
think it's better organized, so that way it doesn't become a firing squad type of situation.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Yeah, and with you know, with a board of 9, I firing, well, it could be you know, some degree it could be a more direct firing, but it's but I was more like, if that happens, it's just going to be a lot more Q&A address, and we were fine. With the board of 40, it is a little harder if that starts to happen. So I do think that in this instance, and taking their feedback, which is fair, let's do that. So if you guys could maybe, you know, prepare something and then we can talk.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to reach out and we can, you know, we can have a discussion, you know, prior, so I know what you guys are each doing.
Yeah,
But
I think
a
similar
good-
to what we did for the Board of Ed, I believe, is seemed like it worked reasonably well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it plays to everyone's strengths as well.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
but all right, so anything else under item number 4? And thank you, Omar, for that point.
No problem.
That'd be helpful.
David, do we want to do a pre-meeting huddle?
Let's you and I talk direct later in the let's talk like you know, later this morning. I've got a window. We'll find something and we can talk about a couple of the points, you and I, and we'll go from there. So
Okay.
yeah. All right, next is going to be a item number 5, approvals, and then it's A, invoices.
I was gonna get them out on yesterday afternoon, and I know you guys need time to review, so we don't have any invoices. I'll get them out today for the next meeting. So you have them with plenty of time for review.
Nothing to present now. Okay.
Nothing to present.
So let's see, discussion. All right, next item is new business.
Nothing.
Can I just, I don't know, I think this is the
Yep.
appropriate place for this, just an update. That the new leadership just wanted to authorize the Gilbane contract, so that's on the agenda for the Board of Selectmen on Monday. So hopefully that'll go through and then we can execute that next week.
Thank you very much, Adam. I was just gonna ask that question. Thank you. Awesome.
Do any of us need to be there?
Thank you.
You know, I mean, maybe David, if you want to log in virtually, but you know, I've been trying to really hammer it into the new leadership that when I go before them, it's just for authorization of a contract. The project has already been approved and vetted. You know,
Yeah.
so it really should be limited questions about the project when the purchasing authority goes for authorization of a contract.
I'll look at the schedule. If I'm available, I'll either pop in or on, and just from a support perspective. If I'm not, don't take it as not support. But
Yeah, or
you know,
Sal,
tracking it, I want this wrapped. So
Sal, do you
need
think you or Angelus would be available? Sal or Angelus?
I will be at the meeting on Monday.
okay,
Okay.
Angelus will be there on Monday. So there you go.
Adam, you don't see a need for us to be there, correct?
I don't think so. I
Okay.
mean, occasionally we'll have the vendor come, but I don't think so. I think they're pretty well versed in this project at this point after our,
Yeah.
the meetings that we've had recently.
Sounds good, thank you.
All right. Any other new business? Anything that's just, I think we're good. So I'm gonna take a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, carries unanimously, and thank you, everyone. We'll see everyone on Monday evening and then again next week.